Hi, welcome to Part of My Frenchie. This is me, 143. If you don't have a friend, you have one now. So, we are on a different location. It is, we are kind of improvising today, and for a lot of different reasons. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so yes, we are improvising a little bit today. Not in the studio. Hello, hello, Michelle. Yes. So today we are improvising, and I will explain that in a couple of minutes. We are not in the studio. We had to do a change up at the very, very last minute. So you'll have to bear with me. This was a very last minute change up. So, but that's okay. The show must go on, and that's fine. Um, as as you know, our little Coco Chanel, which she is right here, as you can probably see right at the corner here. She is back home, and she's doing very well. She's doing very, very well, and she's right on the side of me here. And there's hello to our moderator. You can see Rosie is here on my left. So that is a good thing. Coco is still in quarantine. So she's in quarantine, so she cannot go anywhere outside of the little room that we are in right now. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Um, she needs to stop licking that though. But yeah, Coco cannot go anywhere out of this little room that we are in currently. She's normally in a little pendant area, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But she she cannot go down to the studio area because that is way too much for her at this moment. So I'm going to put this between her, oops, her and the obstacle. Yes, you're in trouble. And now Rosie's mad at Coco. So, anyways, but so here's what's going on. Don't do that. Anyway, so let's get started. What I will do is hang on, let me move this. Lots to talk about. This is Tuesday. We've got our hang on, let me see. Can I have that blue thing over there? Again, we are improvising today, so everybody bear with me. Tuesday is our pet loss support day. Let's see, Coco's already getting in trouble. but we love Coco. So, oh yeah, if you don't mind. The moderator is actually in the same room with us today, so hello, moderator. Again, we great timing. So hello. But anyway, so yes, Tuesday is our pet loss day, and we are happy to have everybody. A lot of great things to go over, and I want to kind of go through some of the things that we were talking about this past week, and a lot of new things. And so we'll wait for a couple other people to join in, but little kind of recap on how Coco's doing. As you can see, she's doing every day. She's a little bit better and better, and she's a little snorting away. I'll kind of point her over here. You can see she's a really happy girl right now, and she's all smiles right away. Now, the biggest thing with Coco, she's normally not this like I would say like breathing out of her mouth. She's been very, very quiet. However, Coco has this big problem ever since that we've gone through the surgery aspect. Ever since we've gone through the surgery, Coco has a very big problem with leaving mommy. And so when we leave mommy, we go kind of in a little bit of a panic stage. So, which means anytime mommy leaves the room, or whether I go to get ready or if I try to do anything, she has a little bit of an anxiety attack. So that's where we are today. and that's why we're having we're having that's why we're having a little bit of a shift and change today, because while I was while I was getting ready, um what does it say? Yes, yeah, we have we yeah, she Coco. Side note, Coco Coco has always been my like agility dog. Okay, Coco is my agility girl. She is a jumper. She is a jumper. And with this surgery, Coco is not allowed to jump. She's not allowed to move. She's not allowed to do anything, which is why here I will pull this out. I've got a bunch of pictures today to go over a lot of things. And I know, like I said, I know this is pet loss day, but we're 5 minutes in. So we're going to do some recapping and stuff, especially like I said, while we're in just a whole different room. It's off the cuff today. So be prepared to, we're just off the walls today. So, Coco, this is what, you're fine. Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. This is what, hand me one of those. This is what, this is what Coco is. This is what I bought Coco. And when we came home from the little hospital, so I got this playpen thing from Amazon. And so when we got home from the hospital, this is what she was in. And you could see I was in the chair next to her because, again, Coco has a real problem with leaving me. So here we are. And she was sleeping nicely in her little bed. Now notice the stalker sitting on my lap. Yes, and I'm talking about you. And anytime Coco makes a weird noise, the stalker right here with the ears up gets a little worried. Like now, like she's making a weird noise, the stalker gets a little concerned. So we have to kind of hold the stalker back sometimes, I call her, because she gets really overly concerned, which is very sweet, which we'll get into that tonight as well. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with Coco. It's just she's just doing her Coco thing as of right now. But so this is what I bought her, and this is what she's confined into when she came out. So anyways, but we're gonna move that and make sure she's not overheating on me either. But also not going to be doing that because you can't be doing that. So I'm gonna put this down here. Anyways, again, not doing Coco Chanel. Anyways, I know you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Yeah. So, anyways, but yes, so this is what Coco's like supposed to be confined in. But Coco, again, is my jumper, and she's supposed to be in here. But Coco can very much, if she was not drugged up, can very much clear that, and that's at least 3 to 4 feet. Okay, on a normal day, Coco could clear that like nobody's business. Coco can clear a child gate like nobody's business. So, she's fine. Now Rosie's going to check out what Coco is doing. Make sure that Coco's fine. Okay. Rosie has been very attentive to Coco to make sure that Coco, ever since we've gotten home, Rosie has been on Coco. It's been something quite interesting. So, anyways, Coco is back. Coco is back doing her thing. So, but yes, so this is what when we came home from MedVet, we went straight into here, and this is where she was. Now, I mentioned here's another little picture. I like these little sign things I got. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to hold this. There's another one. It was just nice to be able to, sit here. Now, however, do you see the chair and me sitting in it? Again, Coco's very, very attached to me. So she gets a little panicky if I'm not sitting next to her. So which is good and it's bad. It's, you know, not so much, you know, on the good side, but it's, you know, I just don't want to stress her out, but I also need to live my life as well. And so there's times that I need to leave and other people need to babysit. And she needs to be monitored at all times. So, anyways, so that's what we had set up when we got home. Couple problems with this. Okay. Couple problems with this. I will tell you what those were. Let's see. Let me tell you what the problems were. So, kind of to recap a little bit, when we initially were on our way before Coco had her surgery, this is what Coco looked like. Coco was don't mind me. So Coco looked basically a hot mess before she had her surgery. Okay. Coco came out of surgery. Now, during that time, you know, I had our lives and everything. During that time, Rosie was a hot mess. Rosie would not eat. Rosie would not eat. Rosie was just a mess. I think she was probably, you know, she was just like I was. She was just a mess. And to me, it's interesting how, you know, we sometimes forget how our dogs are, right? You know, our dogs are, you know, Rosie connected with Coco immediately when we adopted Coco. I always thought that was interesting. When we were looking to adopt another dog into our family, there was another situation, and this was prior to the whole Facebook situation, but there was another situation where we were going to get this other puppy, and, you know, Rosie she's the kind of alpha in the pack right now. And I said, well, you know, we need to make sure that Rosie is okay with the dog. And so we brought Rosie over to meet the puppy, and lo and behold, Rosie did not like that dog. Did not like that dog, did not take to that dog. Now, Rosie in no way is an aggressive dog. She does not have an aggressive, you know, bone in her body. And she did not like that dog. She wasn't aggressive towards it. She wasn't mean towards it, but she did not like it. You could tell she was I don't know. She just, you just could tell she didn't like that dog. She was pushing it. I didn't like the way that the interaction was going. And I right away, you know, looked at the breeder and said, no. I said, no, we're not doing this. And of course the breeder was like, well, you got to give dogs time. And I'm like, you know, I'm no Caesar Milan, but I do know for a fact that I am not going to bring another dog into my home or into my family and it not be a good fit. And I'm not going to do that to the dogs, and I'm not going to do that to the new puppy. That's not fair to a new puppy to sit there and get beat up by other dogs, or disrupt my current pack either. So my son was horribly upset. And at first it was interesting because at first my son was kind of, you know, upset at Rosie. And I told him, I said, you know, sometimes, you know, dogs sense if there's something wrong with another dog. So I said, maybe there was something wrong with that dog. You don't know. I don't know. Maybe the dog was sick. Maybe Rosie picked up on something, that there was something wrong with that dog. I don't know. But there was something that she didn't like about that dog, and disrupting the pack, and it just not being a good fit for our family. On top of the fact of, I wasn't going to do that to that dog. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. So obviously that dog was meant for another family, right? And that's fine. So anyways, then we, you know, when we stumbled across when we came across Coco, that was a determining factor. And I'll be very honest. When we were going through the meet between Coco and Rosie, I had that in the back of my mind. I thought, well, this could go either way because again, Rosie's my alpha. She's the alpha in the pack. So, it's her call. Bottom line, it's her call. If it wasn't going to work, it wasn't going to work, unfortunately. And I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to do that to another dog, torture another dog because my heart's set on another dog. I'm not going to do that. It's again, it's not fair to other dogs to do things like that. So when we went and they had the meet, immediately, the connection between those two, it was like they were probably litter mates, even though they weren't. But it was like they were litter mates, and they loved each other from the go. It wasn't awkward. I mean, they took to each other immediately. It was almost like a weird, beautiful connection between those two. And I was like, holy cow. So, anyways, fast forward to when all this happened. I mean, Rosie was like, anytime Coco went into this whole, the spasm things where she was crying out. I mean, Rosie was she was shake. Rosie was devastated. She was more probably, well, not more than me, but she was probably on the same level as I was. And she would cry. I would cry. A lot of goddamn crying going on. And, anyways, I don't think she ate for 48 to 72 hours. And then, when I went and, when Coco had the surgery and then when I brought her home, I brought Coco home in a blanket, and I walked in and I had to sit on a couch, and Rosie went crazy. Oh my goodness. Rosie went crazy. Like excited crazy. And I sat on the couch and I had, Coco wrapped up because, again, Rosie's, happy, crazy, and I didn't want her jumping all over Coco. So I had, Coco all wrapped up in a blanket, and Rosie's just like, I, had her all, protected, and she's like, just, sniffing her and just, and those two, like, they locked eyes and just were so happy to see each other. So happy to see each other. So then here comes the problem, right? Because they're so connected. I have Coco in her little pen because she's got to be secluded. And then I've got Rosie, who is so overprotective of her on the outside, constantly freaking out because she can't get to her. And she's circling this pen. She's constantly circling this pen. And then she's scratching at the pen and trying to get to her and getting to her. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We've got a month of this. She's got to be in this pen for a month. And I'm like, but then I'm like, well, what is she going to do? Is she going to jump on her? There's so many things, right? So many things that go through your head, and you don't want, what do you do, right? So, finally, it got to the point where then, Coco was like coming out of her medication, and then she's seeing Rosie freak out, and then she starts freaking out, and, she starts like then pushing at the thing. And then it's like, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to hurt herself trying to get out. It was just a mess. So finally I just looked at him like, okay, I'm like, you know what? Let's put them together. Let's put them together. Let's introduce them, slowly together, and just we'll have to, get them together, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to coexist happily, and that's the only way that Coco's going to be able to rest, and that's the only way that Rosie's going to be able to have some sort of sanity. And I ended up, opening the little side thing. Rosie was able to, check Coco out. Coco was able to be with her, what was able to be with, you know, Coco. And I mean, same thing, vice versa. And then it was like they were inseparable again. They were back together. And let me flip some, hang on, where's my thing again? So and here's and here, right away, Rosie she just loves her. She loves her so much. And I mean, they love each other. And to me, it's just such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful connection, right? And you see that between people, and you don't often. It's interesting because sometimes you think that animals are. You say, oh, animals are just animals, and they don't. Of course, they don't think like humans and so forth. But sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. They do care about. They care about their house buddies and their sisters, and they care about each other. And I'm how I look at this and how I'm tying this kind of all into our pet loss today is when our animals lose their mates in the house, they grieve just like we do. And I think sometimes we forget that. They grow up with these, with their brothers or their sisters or their adopted brothers and sisters. And I think sometimes we forget that, they lost somebody too. I think we forget sometimes that, they woke up in the morning and, they're watching their brother or sister, deteriorate or, get sick or get old, and they go somewhere and they never come home. And they're not a human, so they don't understand. They don't understand where they went. And then they're like, they don't understand when they don't come home. And nobody, I think as people, we forget that, or we think, well, they're just dogs, and, as stupid as that sounds, right? And as insensitive as that sounds, as we would say to somebody else, we kind of think, well, maybe we always forget that our dogs grieve too, or our cats grieve too, or animals grieve too. And they do. They do. They go through the grieving process, just the same as people do. And we, there's so many things that we can do to comfort, them as well. And we just have to remember that, because again, especially a connection like this, that's huge. That's huge. I know that, when God forbid their time comes, that's going to be devastating, for probably both of them, that's going to be devastating, especially, I mean, just seeing this interaction with her being gone for surgery and all this, and, one being in there, and, that's going to devastate them. So, with the, the grieving process, and I mean, that's just going to be, I'll show you, there's, here's, I've been here's another one too. I've been trying to find my, hang on one second here. Oh, here it is. I couldn't find what I did with my, I need to be more prepared. Anyways, but here's another one too. I've been kind of working from home and everything too, but you could see they just haven't left each other. So they just haven't, moderators laughing at me. But they just haven't left each other. But here's another thing as well. Moderators laughing at Rosie's face. She's a stalker. I swear. I love her to death, but she is. She is a stalker. I do. I love her. The potato. Yes, I do. I love her to death. Love her, love her, love her. But yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I do. I absolutely love her. So the I wanted to touch on. I do want to touch kind of back on the couple of things also with that. Now, with regards to the place that I took Coco for her surgery, it was a place called MedVet, and they are in Worthington. They have quite a few locations, and they were absolutely fantastic. And I wanted to talk about a couple things because I mentioned them last week. I didn't mention too much about them, but I want to hit on a couple things that happened since I picked Coco up, uh, because that was after I had my Friday, because I picked her up on Saturday and I had the live on Friday, but I picked Coco up on Saturday, and again, discharge was wonderful. Everything was wonderful. They walked me through everything. Then they followed up with everything, making sure everything was fine. That all went great. They called me, or I had, some questions at 2 o'clock in the morning one time, picked up right away. They were just absolutely fantastic. And a couple of things that I had mentioned on Friday, and I was really, I know that when we talked on Friday, there was a subject that I brought up, and the more I pondered it, well, while I was driving earlier, a couple things, I had brought up how much we love our vets, and how much I, love our vets and love our vet techs and all that stuff. And then we also talked about like price and how expensive vet care is and how expensive, it is to go to the vet and, yada, yada, yada. Right. But then when I was driving today, I thought, I'm sure vets hear that all the time. Right. And then I thought, well, yeah, vet care is expensive, but I'm sure it's expensive to open a building, and it's expensive to pay the workers, and it's expensive to go to vet school, and it's expensive to buy medications, and it's expensive. I was looking on their website today, for the place that I took Coco. I mean, they've got MRI machines. I mean, this place does oncology. So I'm assuming that there's tons of equipment for oncology. They do neurology and ophthalmology. And I'm sure there's tons of like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of expensive machinery in there. And, I mean, they list like, there's one, two, three. I mean, there's got to at least be 15 different specialties in here. And oh my God, welcome, Dave. Oh my God. Yeah, Dave's late. Tisk, Dave. Dave is late. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, they are late.
Good Lord. Need to get them a clock.
Yeah, Dave needs a new alarm clock. So, but I mean, again, this place has so many different specialties that, sure, Coco's care was expensive, right? It was expensive. Oh, I bet, Dave. Excuses. Coco's care was expensive, but again, I would have probably, cut out my own kidney and threw it on the table to get her fixed. But again, looking at all the specialties that this place does and all the things that they do in order to save pets' lives, of course. I mean, of course, the machinery and stuff is not free. Nobody gives these things to these people for free, right? And so, yeah, it's going to cost money. And nowadays, they have pet insurance, they have care credit, and there's this. I was looking on their website. I found there's this also thing that they participate in. It's called AVMF Reach Program. And this is a program that we talked about this, and I thought this was interesting. So, and look at this. So this, and it's even got a little thing here, but it's AVMF. And what this is this is a program that if you are low on funds, what it does is you contact them, and I believe they give a certain amount of money, grants and stuff to different veterinarians if they apply for these grants. And through the if you're low on funds or if you can't pay for different things, they will use the grant money from this program to help you pay for your vet bills. So I thought that was amazing. And this place participates in this. So if people are in a situation where they cannot afford the bill, they can go into this grant money from this program and help people pay for their bill. And I thought that was amazing. So I'm actually going to look into this because I want to find out more information so that we can, pass this on to people as well. But how cool is that? So I thought that was really, really cool. I didn't even know if things like this have existed, but why wouldn't it, right? I mean, somebody has to have a bright idea to do something like that. So anyways, so I thought that was really, really cool. Anyways, so off my soapbox about money. I'm going to move all this to the side. Now, secondly, another thing while I was there, they also had these really cool things, and I really, really like this. I wrote them a very, very nice email, and because one of the big things that I liked about their facility was they had the best balance of patient care, and they took care of both people and the animals. And it was interesting because that was the most important thing to me. It's you not only took care of the people, but you also took care of the animals, and that to me is priceless. So when I was in there, they had two different pledges that they had on their wall. They had one that was a pledge to, Michelle says, we had a lot of seabirds injured. Oh, wait, Michelle said we had a lot of seabirds injured in the storm last week. Our government pays for wildlife, but so many are asking for donations for the wildlife. Is that what they're asking for donations for? Are the birds going to the vets and so that must be it. So the birds are going, people are probably dropping the birds off at the vet, and then the government's taking care of the birds. Is that what it is? I bet that's what it is. That's what I'm assuming. Because I would assume, because I'm sure that if you've got these injured birds, then people are probably like seeing them and picking them up and probably taking them to the vet, and the vet's probably, because I wonder, like, I don't know about, Michelle, I don't know about where you live, but here, a lot of our vets, I mean, unless, I take that back, a lot of our, well, I shouldn't say this. Wait, there's a special place for injured birds. Oh, okay. I was going to say, I know that some of I know that here you have to take them to like a special wildlife facility. I don't think you could take a lot of like wild animals to regular vets here. And I don't know if that's that way there or not. But I know here, like, if you find like wild rabbits and stuff like that, you have to take it to like a wildlife preserve people, and they take care of them. I don't know why that is. I don't know why you can't just take them to a regular vet. I don't know if it's like a law thing, or not, or maybe I'm making that up. But I always thought that, because it usually seems like if you find like a like a thing of bunnies or any kind of injured wild animal, you have to take them to a wildlife thing. They won't let you just take them to a vet for some odd reason. I don't know why.
Or they pick them up.
Yeah, or they pick them up. Yeah, that's right. Something like that. I don't know. I've never found a wild animal. Well, I did. Well, I caught a wild animal once, but I let it go. What are those? I'll have to look that up. Well, one other thing that when I was at okay, well, going so this med vet had, I mean, they had great balance, great balance, and what I remembered, I had gone there years and years ago with one of my other dogs. Now we have two of them. We have two locations. We have one close to us, and here, let me throw this one up. So it was, gosh, what, 12 years ago now? So 12 years ago, this guy, this guy was my Sammy. This was my Sammy. Oh yeah, send me a link. I want to see it. Yeah, I do want to see what those look like. So 12 years ago, this was my Sammy, and he all of a sudden just started like passing out on me. And so I had taken him to the med vet that was close to my house. And when I took him there, they told me that and he was, I mean, he just looked as happy as can be. I mean, he just looked like he was just started to pass out. He looked as happy as he could be. And they told me that I could either they told me that I could that's when they told me that he had that boxer cardiomyopathy, and he could either go and I could either try meds, or I could put him down, or he was just going to go into a heart attack. And I will tell you, right there is no words that can explain when a vet tells you that you could just put them down. There is nothing earth-shattering than those words. And I think, Michelle, you had that same kind of situation with Bubba, where they just mention just put him down. And I he was so happy-go-lucky, and just looking at me, and it was just like do and that's what the vet said too. The vet said, like, he has no idea what's going on. It was just his heart was bad, and he didn't know. He had no idea that he had a heart disease. And all I kept thinking is how do you it broke my heart, because I'm like, how can I he was my baby. How could I just put him down? That like shattered me, right? So anyways, we ended up going out to the med vet that Coco went to, and which was interesting because when I took Coco there the other day, I know we talked about this in past grief issues. That's a little walking around. When we talked about past grief issues, triggers. That was kind of a trigger for me when I turned into med vet with Coco, because I remember several times taking Sammy there. And then I remember this picture, because when he got he had to go, this is one, he had to go for a bunch of tests. And they kept him, I believe they kept him overnight because they didn't know this was, gosh, they didn't know what was wrong with him. He had to go for a bunch of tests, and I was so sick and nervous. And so this is, you could see like they shaved his the side, and I mean, he was just such a big baby. He was such a big baby. And this was him. I mean, he was, and at this time he was just so, but this was him when, this is a picture. This was our last picture. This was our last ride home. This was our last ride home before he passed away. And just, so happy, and, but he had a bad heart. He had such a bad heart. And we were so happy, and he was so happy. And, he just, but that's part of the disease. That's how the disease works. That's just how it happens. And, you just don't know when it hits you. But that what I'm getting at is, with regards to that facility, it was kind of like a trigger for me. When I turned in with Coco, I remember, exactly, you never forget. When I turned in with Coco, I kind of remembered that last ride with my Sammy. And, I remember walking up with him, and I remember, being a wreck, not knowing what was going to happen with his heart stuff. And he had a cardiologist there, and God, I remember all the meds, and, I had a Walgreens card. He had a Walgreens prescription card with his name on it, because one of his prescriptions were too expensive, and the pharmacist kind of fudged and made him a human so that his prescriptions would be cheaper. So he has his prescription card as a human, so that his prescription card would be cheaper. But different triggers like that. But still, like back then, MedVet took really good care of my dog. But it's a building that's kind of a trigger, just like my current vet that Lola goes to, that I can't, unfortunately, bring myself to go to anymore with my current dogs, because it reminds me of, my Cookie. Every time I go there, I think of, when Cookie went there. And so I just, I can't bring myself to go there. It's just, it's very, very challenging for me to go there, unfortunately. And that's okay. It's okay. And it's sad, because I really like that vet. She's awesome. She's amazing, and she's awesome. It's a very, very challenging place for me to visit, but that's okay. That's okay, because I have the vet that we've got for the girls. They're amazing too. They, again, with the care that they took with Coco and getting us over to, MedVet, and then the other facility that we didn't end up going to, they were fantastic. The way that they were in the back, and they tried to maneuver these oxygen items, were just amazing. So, and just the way that people go out of their way to save say a little potatoes falling asleep over here. Where's Patty? Did Patty ever show up, or is it just Dave on? I just saw Dave come on. Where's Patty? Is Patty slacking off today? No, Patty's slacking off. Oh, well. Uh-oh. Yep. Patty's slacking off, I guess. Patty's slacking off. But like I said, I don't know. It's the good thing is that the thing is that sometimes life is stressful, but we make it through, right?
Oh, here she is.
Uh-oh. Be nice. Yes, Patty is here. Patty is here. I was Patty and Dave, I was explaining that we are in a new location today. We are in a new location, unfortunately, just for today. Uh, Coco was having a little bit of an anxiety attack. So, with the anxiety attack, I was not able to go down to the studio. And she can't come down to the studio because she's quarantined. So, so I was not going to risk her hurting herself and then working herself up because that is not right. And funny enough, what 5 minutes into this, she is, yeah, the sedative kicked in and she is passed out. So, um, but this it will probably be my life for the next month with her. And God love her. I think probably I would think probably since I adopted her, she's been very very attached to me. And wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very very attached to me. I will go to the bathroom and she'll cry outside of the door. So I don't know why. Like she knows right where I'm at. It's not like it's a big mystery. I mean she I we when we went to Gatlinburg, we went to, just a hotel. We were in a hotel. And literally I was on the other side of the door and she's, like standing there crying. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, I don't go far and she just which that's one of the things that worried me about when she was getting worked on. Um, was when they kept taking her back, she would work herself up. And I kept saying, I'm like, you know, she freaks out and right away they'd have to give her like an anxiety shot. And, it's just so hard. I mean, granted, trust me, I know everybody wants to just be next to me. It's just a thing. And the moderator just rolled her eyes. But um, I mean, she'll admit it. Everybody just wants to be right next to me all the time. But
Like you're a magnet.
it's like I'm a magnet. Yeah, I mean, just everybody just wants to hang out with me all the time. But
It's drawn to you.
yes, everybody's just drawn to me. Yeah, that must be it. Um, but it is interesting because my the one guy at work, they were talking. Everybody was talking about. We always have these questions of the day, and they were talking about reincarnation, and the one guy at work said, if I get reincarnated, I want to be reincarnated as one of Jen's dogs. Because he knows that they're going to be taken real good care of. Speaking of all that, if anybody's celebrating Rosh Hashanah, happy Rosh Hashanah, Ramadan, right church, wrong pew, Ramadan, happy Ramadan. If you're celebrating Ramadan, and it's thank God the sun is down because now you can eat because there's fasting. Which speaking of Ramadan, we're gonna kind of veer all over the place on Petloss Day. Speaking of Ramadan, that's there's a friend of mine that he celebrates Ramadan and he's Muslim and so forth, but he's very very afraid of dogs, and I'm gonna actually have him on one day because I I found it very very interesting because Rosie was the very first dog that he ever held, and he was petrified. He was petrified to hold Rosie. And because I work with them, and when Rosie was a puppy, I brought her into my office, and he was petrified of her. And I mean, she was just a baby, and he was like, he was so afraid of her. I'm like, what are you afraid of? And he's like, no, we're afraid of dogs. And I'm like, what do you mean you're afraid of dogs? And he said, no. He's like, in my country, we don't mess with dogs. And I said, well, why not? And he said, because in my country, um dogs are wild and you're taught not to touch them. And I'm like, wow, I had no clue. So he's always been afraid of dogs. So I'm like, well, do you want to hold her? And and he's like, well, no, and I'm like, well, hold her. and and he's like, and it was a process. It took him like a hot minute to hold her. And then when he did, like he loved, he loved her. And but I told him, I said, I'd love to have you on because I think it's interesting. I think, like different cultures and how they view dogs. I find that interesting. And there was a family that there was a family that moved down the street from us, and we have kids in and out of our house all day long, uh, due to my son, not just because we have kids running in and out of our house, but because my son always has kids in and out of our house. And we live in a very multicultural neighborhood, and we were here one day, and all of a sudden we hear this screaming upstairs. And when you hear a child screaming in your house, you automatically are like, what the heck's going on? And um go running upstairs, and there's this one little boy who's probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and he's screaming at my dogs, Rosie and Coco, who are like looking at him like, why is this kid screaming at me? And he was deathly afraid of dogs. And same thing, same kind of culture, and he they were afraid of dogs. And so we had to kind of go through I had no idea the kid was afraid of dogs. So we had to like go through the process and say, wait a minute, let's, because the dogs were like, whoa, what's going on? They didn't know how to act. And so we had to go through like this whole, like, I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute, let's slow down. Let's introduce, and so now, they're fine with the dogs. But I'm like, well, I'm like, I don't want to, I look at it as an opportunity to, okay, let's let's get past this. Let's get, because my dogs are always going to be out. Because my dogs don't bite people. They're always going to be out. This is their house, and if you're coming to the house, and it was funny because the one little boy, and the one little boy was, he was, he's like, he kept saying, um, what did he said, um, are you not going to let me come over anymore? And I said, well, why wouldn't I let you come over anymore? I'm like, of course. I'm like, but I'm like, just come and, come and play with it. I'm like, but you gotta, have friends with the dogs. And yes, that's right, Michelle. Yes, and that's what he said too. The dogs in the other countries have rabies, and because he said they're wild dogs. And I'm like, I had no idea. But these kids eventually got used to uh, my dogs, and and they're fine. They're fine now. And even, it's interesting because again, we live in a very multicultural neighborhood. We have I have a bike trail, and I always find it interesting when I take the three girls out on a walk. There's tons of families, and they have um oh, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because in case you do get bit, absolutely. Um, there's tons of families out there that with kids that they'll always come running up to me, and they don't have dogs, and they'll be like, hey, um, can I pet your dogs? And of course I always say yes. And they always do this like, like like they've never touched a dog before. And I always start with Lola, because Lola's like my big Eeyore. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, we'll start with Lola because she doesn't, Lola doesn't move. The other two get a little jumpy, and they could be, whatever. So I always start with Lola. And Lola, I just kind of always turn Lola, the other way. So, and I'm like, all right, pet her on the back, and Lola loves that anyways. But and these kids love it. And then when I see them on the bike trail, they're like, oh, where's Lola? And I love that, because then I love introducing kids and families to, that aren't used to dogs and to see how special it is to have a dog and how wonderful it is. And then kind of break that mold of, dogs aren't scary. And, well, not all dogs are scary. I mean, I guess there are some dogs that are scary, but they don't have to be. And well, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, they don't have to be. And why not just it's a positive thing. It's a really, really, really positive thing. So yeah, um it's a good thing. So anyways, but I do want to point out, here's my phone here. We do have my one friend Amy. I'm going to pull this up. I had it up here. My one friend Amy did lose 2 dogs this week. I had it up here. She did lose 2 dogs this week, and it looks like they were she lost both she got both dogs in 2013. Both were meant to be fosters, so evidently they were foster fails. Rudy turned 16 last November, and Lucy was 15. So they were, and they both were they both passed together. And let's see here. Let me see if she's got several pictures. I'll find one here. This is the, oh geez. Oh wow. I don't know if, oh boy. That's, wow, you can't see that one. Golly. That's a heck of a glare. Why can't I see that? Well, that's not showing up. Oh, poop. Well, I'll have to post it somewhere else. I don't know why that's so glary. But anyway, so hats off to these 2. So, oh, maybe that one. Can you see that one? You can see that one. So that's these 2. God love them. But 16 and 15 years. 16 and 15 years old. Looks like and she posted this 21 hours ago. So they just left us a little, looks like yesterday or the day before. So that's, Patty says, yes, start with Lola, not the feral Rosie. You know what? Yeah, Rosie's a mess. Rosie's a mess. She's a mess. Here, let me have what did I do with my thing here? But we will light the candle in honor of all of the ones that have passed. And we'll get this going. Yeah. Yes. Good. I'm glad you guys could see that. But we will light the ones that have passed and ones that are here and are the ones that we've lost in the recently, or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They all mean something, and they always will. That's for sure. They always will. That is for sure. So, and it doesn't have to be a dog, be a cat.
People.
What?
And people.
And people. And people. It could be guinea pigs. What? What do you say? Herschel. Yeah, we had a guinea pig. Yes, and the wild birds. Yep. I mean, it's not anything, right? That we've got. Yeah, we had a guinea pig named Herschel. We had turtle named Buddy. Numerous fish, birds, all sorts of things. That guinea pig was interesting, though. That was the first time we had ever had a guinea pig. He was a good, you know what? And a tangent about the guinea pig. Tangent about the guinea pig. Lola used to go in to the room, and every morning, and the guinea pig would go up to the cage, like her side of the cage, and yeah, and it would squeak, and Lola would go up to the side of the cage and like lick the side of the guinea pig's head, like for 20 minutes. Now, I didn't know if Lola was actually tenderizing the guinea pig, but the guinea pig would just sit there and like just love it. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if Lola's trying to eat the guinea pig but it would happen like every day. And it was just like, and it would squeak, Lola would come in, and there would just be this like she would just lick it to death. So
Or when we would like walk by, he would start squeaking.
yeah, and anytime you walked by, Herschel would just start squeaking, and I mean he was adorable, and I wasn't a
Mhm.
guinea pig person either. Like I'm not a big rodent person, but he grew on me. Oh, you had a guinea pig too? Oh, I know. You know
Yeah,
what?
that was awful.
Those are that really killed me when he died.
Because I got up for school, it was awful.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, oh, yeah. I didn't like that at all. I wasn't
Just
prepared for
start
that.
crying.
Yeah, that was awful. Yeah, I remember ours too. Oh yeah, no. Mm-mm. Yeah, and we had a bunch of hamsters and stuff growing up. Ugh, yeah. And we had a snake. Don't ask Patty about the snake.
That was wild.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But anyways. Well, thank you all for stopping by. Thank you for listening to our stories. Thank you for putting up with this. Again, Coco's knocked out on the floor. God love her and her little anxiety today. Such a good girl. She just loves her mom a little too much. Um, but I couldn't risk her getting hurt. So thank you for showing up. Let's see, this week, trying to think of when it's going to be next. Either and maybe I'll have to see if it's either going to be. It can't be. Mm, it might just be Tuesday again, and if not Friday. But thank you so much. Thank you. It may be. It might be Friday. It might be Friday. If not Friday, it'll have to be uh,
Sunday?
Sunday. It might have to be Sunday then. Yeah, yeah. What? Your turtle. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When the moderator, yeah, when the moderator was like 3 years old, or yeah, it had to be 3 years old. I used to have these little baby turtles, and I had like three of them, and they were like the size of like a $half. And I came home from work one day, and they were like in a little bowl on our table. Came home from work one day, and she's standing on the table, and she's got one of the turtles in her hand. The other turtle, she's like, has like trying to give to the dog, which was that one that I showed you that I took to med vet, and which he didn't eat or anything because I don't think he would know what to do with it. But yeah, she's like letting him free. And I don't know what she was thinking. But anyways, they all lived happily ever after. But yeah, that's what the moderator was doing at 3 years old, setting the turtles free. So
Left home alone.
yeah, but she was not left home alone at 3 years old. No, she was not left home alone at 3 years old. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. We are so happy that Coco's getting better. God love. Oh my God, that was so scary. And I hope to God that never happens again. Um, thank God. Yeah, so you know what? Oh, Patty or Dave. Oh, you know what? Good gravy. Good grief. Oh, here, you know what? I didn't show this picture today. This was here's I was gonna say you guys see what here's Lola when Lola was a baby. That's Lola and Harley. That's little Lola when she was just a puppy. A little puppy.
But to delete this comment.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Chris was a jerk.
To me?
You know, in the comment.
Oh. Yeah. So anyways, but my nails are all stained because I was dyeing the moderator's hair today, so don't mind that. Anyways, but as as usual, it's always wonderful to talk with everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful night. And again, I apologies for not being in the studio today. You can blame Coco, who loves her mother a little too much. So, anyways, if you don't have a friend, you have one now. Please hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. Until Friday, we will see you then. And then again on Tuesday, or Friday or Sunday. Did we say Friday or Sunday?
You're in between either one.
Yeah, either Friday or Sunday. Either Friday or Sunday. But either way, we will Friday or Sunday. We will be back, and we'll make this happen again. So again, I appreciate everybody. Tell all your friends. Tell all your family. Show up to this dysfunctional event. We appreciate everybody. Take care. Goodbye.